Welcome to the DIY Goalie podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie.
Goalies, how are we doing? Welcome back to the DIY Goalie podcast presented by True North Goaltending. How we doing? Nice to see everyone. We are doing a little bit of a different episode today. Nathan and I unfortunately did get a little busy, kind of lost track of time a little bit, and unfortunately wasn't able to get together to do the pod today. So we're going to do something that we did back in the goalie fights cancer episode, where I have my segment, Nathan has his segment, so you guys get to still hear the both of us and not one over the other. We're just gonna do it that way today, because again, like I said, we ended up just losing track of the days. Things have kind of winded down for us, but we've been so used to not talking to each other so often, and not forgetting to do pod, but excuse me, we have our own lives and such, and so yeah, that's the thing, guys. This is pod episode 99. That's incredible. That's nuts. The fact that we've been at this for 99 episodes, coming up on 100, and then a few episodes later it'll be 2 years since the DIY Goalie podcast started. So that's nuts. Guys, as always, thank you so much for your support on the last episodes and on the pod as a whole. We really do appreciate it. Love when we get goalie parents and just goalie people in general that come up to us and say thank you, and they say that, I listened to the pod and, you guys are great and blah, blah, blah. And I've learned something and, and all that stuff. So we really do appreciate it. Not just in our little bubble here in the greater Edmonton area, but just all across the globe, which is really insane. So true international goaltending is what we will be rebranding ourselves to. So my plan for at least my segment today is that I have kind of two mini segments that we're going to do. I'm gonna hold true to myself in this episode and not drop the ball like I did the last episode. And we're going to be talking about the drill of the month today, and I'm not going to mess it up like I did last time. And then as well as I just want to talk about a little bit, just kind of some other sports that our goalies and our athletes as a general should be playing, or participating in, rather, outside of goaltending. As we are all entering into playoffs, some of our seasons are done. A lot of us most likely are looking into spring, summer hockey and such. And Nathan and I have both shared our thoughts about that, but we haven't really touched on, what are some other sports that you should be playing, or partaking in outside of ice hockey, essentially. And so that's going to be my job here today. Nathan's going to have his own segment. I'm actually really excited about this one today, but we're going to try and keep it very brief today, because I would like to revisit this segment and have Nathan's opinion on it as well. Just a few other housekeeping items quickly. You guys can head to our website, truenorthgoaltending.com, to make sure that you guys go and check out all the stuff that we have going on over there. We do have still, some bookings in our camps, so go check that out. Just if you are in the Edmonton area, feel free to book a session with us, truenorthgoaltending.com. All right, let's jump into this drill of the month section here. So Nathan did put out a newsletter in, if you are subscribed to that, make sure, if you're not subscribed to it, go subscribe to it. But if you are subscribed to it, you'll see that he put out like a practice plan for February of 2026. And so there's a one drill in here that I did want to talk about today, and it's called the blind behind the net pass outs. We've dealt with similar situations like this before. Actually, just recently I dealt with a similar situation where I had a pass that was from behind the goal line, made that pass right out to the guy, basically at the face-off dot, and it was a quick shot. And so I had to kind of quickly react to get to that next position. We deal with a lot of quick shots in games, and sometimes we deal with shots that maybe we don't totally see. So with this drill in particular, it definitely adds a little bit of speed and agility, and just we want to make sure that we're still doing our best to, if over anything, just get our body to where the puck is going to be. So here's the drill for today. So the goalie starts at the top of their crease in the middle. Doesn't necessarily specify whether you're on your feet or in your butterfly. I'm going to assume that you're on your feet. There are 4 players on each side of the net, 2 below the goal line, 2 about where the face-off dots are, kind of just above on the inside hash marks. There's a shooter in line with each passer, higher in the zone, somewhere around the height of the face-off dot. Goalie is facing forward. Passers will communicate non-verbally to decide who is passing. One of them passes out to their shooter for a quick shot. Goalie must read the side the pass is going once they see the puck, then push over accordingly and play out the rebound. Variation is having the shooters lower in the zone and the goalie starts slightly deeper in their crease. Goalie can perform a slide or start on their knees to perform an inside edge push for the shot coming from tighter to the net. Key points on this one are picking the puck up as quickly as possible, making sure that we get proper rotations before pushing, and that's a huge one. And then make sure that we're getting our feet set quickly, or if we are doing that second variation where we're doing that butterfly slide across, making sure that we're getting that good inside edge push, and then we're making sure that we're catching ourselves, catching our edges, and dropping that knee down as best as we can. We don't want to kind of stop halfway up. I like this drill for a number of reasons, and again, the quickest one, or the best one that I can think of in particularly, is because of how quickly you have to pick up that puck, and sometimes we don't necessarily get a chance to get set, look pretty, for a shot that's kind of basically a quick one-timer from in tight or from not so far away, closer to the blue line. The rotation part of it, is a huge part of it. And again, I'm not looking for anything fancy. I'm not looking, for my goalies, to make the perfect save, especially when we do have a quick shot opportunity like this. The biggest thing, guys, is we just want to be able to get body in position. We got to take away, we just got to take away coverage from the net at this point, which sounds so counterintuitive, but it's not at the same time. I didn't do this drill in particular, but I did a variation of this drill where same idea, where the goalie was going for that kind of that back door area. And I was really emphasizing on, it doesn't need to look pretty. We want to make sure that we get to the area that we want to get to as best as we can, but we have to make sure that we get on the right line of the right line of travel, the right line of sight, the right angle, whatever you want to call it, to get to that position. And so that's where that rotation really comes in handy over anything, because when we get that proper rotation, when we're in line to wherever the shooter's body is or to wherever the shooter's stick blade is, we get on that line, get that push across, and we are just taking away that net. If we get a half rotation or if we over rotate, then you're either giving up net or you're not, basically. So really important, that the rotation aspect of it is the biggest thing. Obviously, like I said, we want to be able to pick up the puck as quickly as possible. So if we're staring directly in front, we got to look and then push, as best as we can. And then again, like I said, getting our feet set quickly, or even make sure when we are doing that second variation with the butterfly slide, that that we're getting that good push across as best as we can. So we will have the link to this drill down in the show notes below, and I'll make sure that I actually get the proper graphic out for it this time. I forgot to do that last episode, but yeah, we'll make sure we get all that out to you guys. And definitely if that's something that you guys have been struggling with, definitely would recommend working on this drill over the summertime. Work on your edges, working on making sure that we pick up that puck as quickly as we can so then we can get to our next position. All right. Like I said, so my segment's a little bit shorter today. Nothing too crazy. We're just going to talk about quickly, what are some of the best sports, for us as goaltenders that we should be getting into playing over the summer. And I have a few here that that are interesting to me. Some of which I'm not surprised about. There's a couple that I have here, not in like I don't have an article, but I did just kind of do a little quick Google search here. And there's a couple in here that I was like, I never really thought about that before. So as goalies, we want to try and pick up want to try and work on aspects of our game, that'll translate, right? So really we shouldn't be playing something like um I don't know, football as an example. Some of us may like football, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're playing football and then transitioning back to hockey, it's not really going to help with the um with the translation of skills, essentially. Same with if you're doing something like ski jumping, as an example. Two very bad examples, but it still gets the point across. We want to be doing something that's going to help with certain aspects of our game, or as goalies, that focuses on a specific thing, and then we can translate that to that other to back to goaltending, essentially. So I have three here, and two of which are kind of the same thing. So I'm going to kind of um, correlate it under one thing. When we want to work on, first off, is our hand-eye reaction time, because that's the biggest thing for us as goaltenders, right? We have to quickly pick up information, process that information, and react to that information, as best as we can. So something like baseball or softball, which I love, by the way. I love playing baseball, but playing baseball as a catcher in particular really helps with that hand-eye tracking, the quick reflexes, and a little bit of footwork, as well. Catchers are basically, ground goalies, essentially, baseball goalies. If you've ever seen, it's not totally true, but you ever see that one clip of the goaltender playing baseball in his full goalie gear? I forget what the name is, and you guys are gonna rip me, and that's totally fine. But it's kind of the similar idea, But I played catcher as in baseball. I hated it because I wasn't really a fan of the ball being thrown at me while I have somebody with a giant metal bat, basically standing over top of me. I was so scared of getting hit in the back of the head. But I definitely would recommend playing baseball as a as a as a hand-eye coordination. Some other ones as well: badminton, ping pong. Really good for the hand-eye and for the quick reflexes, as well as fast footwork. If you guys ever played ping pong or badminton, I did that a lot in school, and badminton more so in particular. I play ping pong on occasion, but yeah, like that tiny little ball, or the birdie, that thing moves fast, and that thing moves in some weird directions. So we want to it's great for processing information, and for reacting as quickly as we have to make sure that we get that ball or the birdie on the other side of the net. Same thing with tennis and pickleball as well. I don't know a lot about pickleball, but I know quite a bit about tennis. Same thing, for those long lateral movements, getting that rotation, loading those legs, making sure that we're moving as fast across the court as best as we can. Excellent for lateral movement, tracking fast moving objects, stuff like that. Um, Moving on into kind of the flexibility, balance, and core strength side of things, because we, as goalies, we have to be as flexible. We have to be as flexible, if not more. We have to have really, really good balance, because our edges are different compared to players, and we have to have really good core strength as well, because that's where a lot of our power comes from in the same time. So gymnastics builds good core strength, body control, and flexibility, all critical for specifically recovery saves. Um, I'm not the most flexible guy. I've done gymnastics, a few times in my life. But definitely, like if you've seen some of those gymnasts, they are built, like those guys are built different, and just the amount of body control, the core strength that they have, is unreal. So we want to make sure, that um we have that, as best as we can. Yoga and Pilates, good for range of motion, again, balance and core stability, as well as assisting in flexibility and injury prevention. That's another good one right there, because we have to take care of ourselves too, because goalies, um you know can get injured. We've all known it, we all seen it. And so if we're not doing things, to be able to stretch out the muscles, and as best as we can, it can do a lot of damage. And so we want to make sure, that we're taking care of ourselves. So if you are part of any yoga or Pilates classes, my wife and my kid just went to one today. You know we got to make sure that we're doing that. And then the last one here, I'm gonna it talks about martial arts and taekwondo. I focused on karate a lot as a kid, and like just the whole kind of martial arts scene in general. Again, focuses on that core stability and balance, because you work your core a lot, because you're working basically on the balls of your feet. And as well as focuses on the leg power as well. With the kicks, and making sure that we get your feet set properly in certain movements, and all that stuff. So definitely would recommend taking a martial arts. I quite enjoyed doing karate as a kid. I've been meaning to go back as an adult. I just haven't really had the chance to, or the money to. But yeah, definitely would highly recommend taking martial arts. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of discipline, as well, which I think is important. I focusing more so to agility and movement. This one doesn't surprise me a whole lot. Soccer is a good one. And good work, good. It's good on footwork and lateral movement, because again, if you've ever played soccer, if you ever watched soccer, those fields are massive. And even then, like when you are working that ball, you have to work that ball with your feet, and so you have to have really good foot eye coordination, I guess. Um, so I think it's one of those things, where that's a really good one. Lacrosse as well, again, same thing with hand eye coordination and spatial awareness. That's a good one. That's a really good one there with lacrosse and spatial awareness. Soccer's kind of in that same category as well. um and definitely would be something that I would recommend. I've never played lacrosse. I can't throw the ball to save my life, but that's another good one. Beach volleyball, really good for agility and vertical explosiveness, because you guys think about, like, you're working in sand, right? So you have to really load your legs a little bit more to be able to get across the court, and you have to really explode, and to jump up high. I didn't play beach volleyball, but I played like water volleyball. And so when you're working against, like the water, it's hard to, in terms of moving across, and you're throwing your body on the line a lot, just to try and get over, to keep the ball in the air and try to get it over the net. Um, so definitely, definitely would recommend beach volleyball, or even just kind of volleyball in general. That's another good one to do. And then lastly, for simulation and more so specific skills, ball hockey. You know, I would definitely recommend playing ball hockey over spring or summer hockey. Go play that; it's a lot of fun. I'm actually a champion with ball hockey, so I have that under my belt. But it's the same idea, right? You're simulating game situations. It improves on reading the play. Keeping reflexes sharp. Especially as a goaltender. Definitely would recommend playing ball hockey as a player. That's a lot of fun as well. It kind of helps you, with the leg power, and it doesn't really talk about it, but the endurance as well. That's another one, because if you've ever played hockey in general, whether it's ball hockey or ice hockey as a player, you suck a lot of wind. And I definitely would recommend that. And then, just kind of another one as well, just with the footwork and foot speed, and coordination, skipping, jump rope. You see players or people do that in the gym as well, where they're jumping rope, and it's not because they're doing that, to feel like a little schoolgirl. It's, they're doing that with purpose, and try to count how many foot touches, on the ground, and, try to keep control and discipline, when they're jumping, make sure that they don't get, tied up on the rope and all that stuff there. So yeah, so that's kind of my Cole's notes on what I have with it today. I definitely want to revisit this topic very, very soon with Nathan, kind of get his thoughts on it. Um, yeah, but definitely would recommend, all of these. But I think if I had to pick kind of one for each category, for hand-eye coordination and reaction time, I would definitely say baseball. Again, baseball is it's my second favorite sport of all time. But whether you're playing baseball as a catcher, like it recommends me here, or even if you're just playing baseball in a different, if in a different position, it still focuses on a lot of things. With the glove tracking, the hand-eye coordination, and even the quick reflexes as well. Especially if you're in the outfield and you get a long bomb like that. Um, for flexibility, balance, and core strength, again, I would still definitely say martial arts in general. Gymnastics is a very, very close second. But I have a personal bias towards martial arts, so I would definitely recommend that. For agility and movement, I'm actually leaning towards volleyball. I would definitely do a little more volleyball than maybe soccer or lacrosse. I think volleyball just has that, you again, like I said, like you throw a lot of your body on the line, and again, those quick decisions, and you have to really focus on your agility and your vertical explosiveness. Not necessarily applying to goaltending, but it's that leg power, it's that leg strength in general, right? I guess vertical explosive if you're in your butterfly and having to pop back up to your feet. And then simulation, specific skills, ball hockey. Ball hockey would be the one for me, I would say. Definitely. Now again, just I love playing ball hockey as a kid. Like I said, I'm a city champion. So but yeah, those would be the other ones, guys. I cannot stress enough, and I'm talking to the goalie parents here in particular. I cannot stress enough how important it is for your kid to play other sports. It is so, so, so important. And Nathan and I have talked about it many times before, where a lot of people think, like, oh, if my kid doesn't, play spring hockey or play summer hockey, or, if they're not on this specific coach's team, then they're missing out. Really, you're not. You're not at the end of the day. Spring and summer hockey, it's not, it's turned into this thing of, hey, if I play spring or summer hockey, it's going to help advance my career as a hockey player, as a hockey athlete. Which maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. There's no guarantee with that whatsoever. But if you are just a one trick pony, a lot of skills with that don't necessarily always translate over to other things. You know, as athletes in general, we're building not only athletic skills, but we're building also personal skills at the same time too. And I think that's the one thing that we all forget about sometimes. And so I would definitely, again, I'm against spring. I coached in spring hockey. It was a fun time. I'm not going to dismiss that, but I would definitely recommend for all my athletes, go find something else to play. Go take up a summer sport. Go play baseball. Go play just go do something else aside from hockey. Get away from the rink for a little bit, because otherwise you are going to burn yourself out too at the same time. So yeah, we'll get Nathan's thoughts and opinions on this. That is kind of my Cole's notes there, and those would be my recommendations for summer sports. So I'm going to pass it over to Nathan now. Apparently I'm losing my voice in this episode, so yay me. Thank you guys again so much for all the love and support. Really do appreciate it. Go check us out, TrueNotesGoaltending.com, for all your stuff. If you are following over on the Instagram or on the social media side of things, all of that is True North Goaltending, except on Instagram, because we like to be different. That one is YEG Goalie Coach. You can follow myself on Instagram at MondayGC. If you are listening or watching on your favorite podcast or video platform, whether that be YouTube, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, or whatever that is, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, hit the share button. It helps the algorithm. The more goalies that we are able to bring together, the better. And again, check us out, truenorthgoaltending.com. Go check out all of our excellent stuff there. We still have camp spots available there for our new and upcoming goalies, for our ringette goalies, and our week-long camp is filling up fast. I think we have very, very limited spots left, so go get your spot now, truenorthgoaltending.com. Make some saves, goalies. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Hey, goalies. Welcome back to the DIY Goalie podcast. This is just me, Nathan, for my segment of this podcast. We kind of dropped the ball on our scheduling here, so we kind of had to put together a couple segments solo here for today's episode. So depending on how this was structured after the fact, either you'll hear from Connor after me, or you have just finished listening to Connor. But I'm going to have a pretty short and sweet segment today, just based off of, one goalie versus two goalie teams. A lot of parents seem to kind of have, concerns when they're going from a single goalie team to a two goalie team. They have lots of concerns, mostly around playing time, which is valid. Like, obviously, when there's more goalies on a team, you're looking at less playing time just because you got to make sure, especially in minor hockey with the fair play, you got to make sure that both goalies are getting some playing time. So when it comes to the major drawback, that's kind of the big one that stands out from a one goalie team versus a two goalie team. But there are a lot of benefits that come along with having the two goalies as well. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you have been used to being the only goalie on a team, and then you're making the shift to being on a two goalie team, you can definitely have a positive mindset going in and kind of framing your mindset positively around the experience, as opposed to kind of going in thinking, oh, we're losing playing time. This is going to suck. It's going to be a bad year. We're not going to develop as much, yada, yada, yada. So there are a couple benefits that come with having two goalies on a team. The obvious one being that there's a lot less pressure when you have two goalies as opposed to just being the one goalie. Like when you are the one goalie, you kind of have pressure to be there every game. You don't really have the flexibility if you're a little bit sick or a little bit hurt to kind of take a day off. Normally, when you're the only goalie on the team kind of rides and dies by you, right? So I've been there before, and Adam, I got sick during a game once, and we had to throw throw one of our players in net randomly. So took my gear off, he put it on and went in net, and that went about as well as expected. But that's kind of one thing that really is beneficial to having two goalies on the team. The other thing too is having a bit of a support system. A lot of us know this already, but goaltending's quite a lonely position. It's probably one of the loneliest positions in sports when we think of it as a whole. Because like when we talk about quarterbacks, pitchers, and kind of similar positions in other sports, they usually get a lot more coaching, a lot more support than goalies do in hockey. So it's nice to kind of have somebody else who's going through a similar experience and who has gone through similar experience as you. You can bounce ideas off them. You can learn from them. They might be doing something in their pregame warm up, or, in their reset routine, or they might be doing something with their equipment that you haven't seen before that you really like. So it's kind of a fresh perspective on things, kind of, an extra set of eyes, an extra opinion. And it's good to just be able to go and kind of talk with somebody else, right, who's in a similar situation. So the other thing too with that is if you have a situation where your coaching staff is doing something that is really not good for the goalies, like say they're running very unfriendly goalie practices, when you have two goalies, it's a lot easier to go together to talk to the coaches and bring this stuff up. And usually it has a little bit more weight to it when both of you are there, as opposed to just being the one goalie on the team trying to advocate for some change. Sometimes that doesn't go over as well as if you can have both of you guys kind of going in and talking and being on the same page and saying, hey, this isn't working for us and this is for both of us, can we make some sort of adjustments? Another thing too that's kind of nice when you have two goalies is that internal drive, that internal competition. So there are some circumstances where this is taken too far by either goalies or goalie parents or both. So yes, this can potentially be, a negative, but for the most part, most people are pretty good at generating a positive environment, or at least one that they just want to see their kid or themselves develop properly. So a lot of times they don't really go out of their way to sabotage the other goalie. Now, does it happen? Yes, it does, unfortunately. But for the most part, you're not really going to see that too much. And then if you do have issues with that, you can always raise it to your organization and kind of go from there. But that internal drive and that internal competition can really be a good thing for development. When we're talking about, um, you know, being able to push ourselves in practice, sometimes it's kind of hard when we're the only goalie, because it's a little bit of complacency, right? There's no real, you know, consequence on the other side, I guess, if we don't really put in the work for a practice here and there. Just because you're going to get your playing time regardless when you're the only goalie. But when there's two goalies and you have somebody that's pushing you for minutes and is trying to take minutes away from you and you're trying to take minutes away from them, it can create a healthy competition where you guys are both driving yourselves to get better, and to put in the work and to do the extra things and to try and close that gap, right? So that does kind of help to, push away the complacency and to kind of make it so that, you have to put in the work and you have to be making sure you're staying on top of your development. So having two goalies in that sense is good. And it's, on top of that internal competition, there's also kind of that camaraderie that comes from it. So, I mean, there's still lots of my goalie partners that I still talk to today. And I know that's the case for a lot of goalies out there, especially if you end up with a goalie partner that you're with for a couple seasons in a row. There's a real friendship that gets to be made there. It's also good, too, to you know, if you're a younger goalie kind of moving up in the ranks, so say you're moving up to an age group where you're a first year and your goalie partner is a second year, sometimes that extra little bit of experience from the other goalie can really be helpful in sort of like a little bit of a mentorship role. This applies more so to like the higher levels and kind of once you get into the elite streams and junior, semi pro, stuff like that. But it can still be kind of a valuable dynamic in your goalie tandem, just having one goalie that's been there before and then kind of a younger goalie that's coming up through the ranks. And it's almost, that like passing of the torch type thing. But a lot of that kind of experience can be passed on and can really help, accelerate somebody's development if they're coming into a situation where they have a really good goalie partner who's a bit older and a bit more experienced and can kind of pass some of that along. So ultimately, like I know with the single goalie teams, a lot of what people look at is the playing time, and that's kind of what they get caught up on is, oh no, I'm going to lose half of my playing time. But there are a lot of other things to kind of be considered and kind of benefits to having a tandem approach. Um, it's just something that eventually is going to happen unless you're playing house league in a remote area for your entire career, which is possible too. Like maybe you do go your whole career without ever having a goalie partner, but
ultimately, I'd say for 95, maybe even like 98, 99% of goalies out there, eventually they're going to end up in a situation where they do have a tandem, where they do have a goalie partner and there are two goalies on their team. Don't see this as a potential downfall. Kind of embrace it for what it is, where, it's somebody to push you, somebody to lean on, somebody to kind of, have similar experiences to you and that you can learn from and that you can also teach a little bit as well. And just have fun with it, make some friends. There's very few people that are in the same situation as you as a goalie, right? Like, just by sheer population numbers, there aren't nearly as many goalies in the world as there are players. So there's so many people that just don't get it, right? And all of us in the goalie community, we kind of know that. We've experienced it at various times, but just having that open-mindedness, being able to go in and, have a positive frame of mind around it and actually understand the situation so you can maximize your development from it. That's the best way to go about it. And that's usually when you'd be most successful. But yeah, that's kind of mostly all I wanted to say on the topic. Just wanted to kind of put it out there that going into a tandem situation is not necessarily a bad thing, and in fact can, in some circumstances, give you a little bit more benefit than being on a single goalie team. And hopefully that just kind of helps you frame your mind a little bit, or frame your mindset a little bit differently around it, and be a little bit more okay with making that adjustment. But as always, goalies, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on another episode.